Hi, I'm Stephen with AlbertaUrbanGarden.ca. Companion planting is defined as a planting method whereby you plant two or more plants close together in order to gain some benefits in either protection from pests or improved flavor. Companion planting is where the Testing Garden Assumption series and the Urban Gardening series intersect in today's video. I'm going to take a look at this concept and how I may integrate it into my 2016 garden. The best time to start companion planting, or to think about it, is before you plant your garden in the spring. The most common claims made about companion planting is that it improves the resistance of crops from pests and helps bring in beneficial ones such as pollinators. Researchers in the UK found that when brassicas were planted with 4 of the same plants around them, in some cases they successfully observed confusion of cabbage root flies. Similar research in Poland supported the finding that if specific companion species were selected, their presence reduced predation by pests on your crops. In short, companion planting can deter pests from damaging your crops. When I read a little bit further, it turns out that the researchers started with crop companion combinations that already had reported benefits, just not in an academic setting. So what it really boils down to is you need to know down to the species which companion works with which crop to deter which pest. So if you get any one of these 3 wrong, you may not see the reported benefits of companion planting. The next most common claim is that pears such as basil and tomatoes improve each other's flavor. Flavor is very subjective, so this is a hard one to test reliably. As such, it was very difficult to find any reliable peer-reviewed literature on the improved flavor caused by companion planting. However, if we step back just a little bit, we may be able to figure out what's going on here. There are limited connections between plants planted in close proximity. However, plants in close proximity, such as a companion planting scenario, can impact things like soil temperature, light availability, and moisture. And these things can, in theory, impact the flavor of the produce. However, that's a little bit of a stretch. What is more likely the cause of improved flavor is more likely the variety of crop and when it is harvested. Heirlooms are more common in gardens and are very different than the varieties grown in grocery stores. Researchers in Texas investigated the composition of crops from 1950 all the way through to 1999 and found that the commercial varieties available today have evolved to be able to store for longer. At the same time, they have lost part of their makeup that improves their flavor. So when you compare an heirloom that is much closer to the varieties that would have been around in 1950 to a store-bought, the heirloom likely would taste significantly better. In addition to the genetic head start that your varieties have in the garden, when you harvest them also has a massive impact on flavor. Garden crops are often picked at the peak of ripeness, unlike store-bought ones that by necessity are picked early and lose the opportunity to finish off building up sugars in exchange for a longer shelf life. To circle back to the question that companion planting may improve the flavor, the answer may be yes. However, there is limited peer-reviewed research out there. It's much more likely that the varieties of fruits and vegetables that you're selecting to grow in your garden and when you harvest them is responsible for the improved flavor. The final claim I will take a look at is the claim that companion planting attracts beneficial insects. Generally speaking, these insects are broken into 2 categories: wildlife that improve pollination and those that help manage pests. Plenty of fruit and vegetables that we grow in our backyards require pollination. The insects that help pollinate our crops use smell and sight to find their food sources, which is pollen and nectar from flowers. There is plenty of research to suggest the pollinators are attracted by the presence of a food source or flowering plant. Similarly, animals that eat and control pests are attracted by food sources and conducive habitats. In essence, if you make your garden a nice habitat, they will come. This leads me to how I'm going to adopt some of the principles from companion planting in my garden. There's lots of information out there of which companion works with which crop and how they benefit each other, and to be frank, it can be quite overwhelming trying to figure out which combination works well and where and how much spacing. What I implement in my garden is a little bit more simple and doesn't require an in-depth knowledge of your crop, your companion, and which pests or what benefits you're trying to get out of it. So again, what I've done is I've stepped back and I've taken a look at the problem and how we can achieve the same benefits with less work. So what are we trying to achieve? We're trying to achieve the three main claims made about companion planting, namely improved flavor, improved pollination, and improved pest resistance. The varieties that I'm starting with give me the head start on improved flavor. Now all we have to address is the deterring of pests and bringing in animals that will manage pests and pollinate our crops. I achieve these results by interplanting crops and growing a wide variety of crops that flower at different times. The practice is called polyculture and is much easier to implement in the garden. If you plant a whole bunch of one crop in one area, that is called a monoculture, and they are particularly susceptible to pests. The pests are quickly able to find their preferred food source and destroy it. In short, when comparing polyculture to companion planting, polyculture is just a simpler method to implement in your garden. By planting a diverse and wide variety of crops that flower at different times, you make your garden into a habitat that attract beneficial insects that not only can help pollinate your crops, but control the pests. That habitat also confuses the pests, improving your overall yields in your own garden. Not only is polyculture a simple method to implement in the garden, I personally also find it extremely visually appealing.